Welcome to my guide for eBay selling success. Whether you're looking for tips for how to shoot effective photographs or how to manage the mental health aspects of running an eBay business, this is where you need to start. First, let's talk about some tips that will help you take high quality eBay photographs. The first tip is to take a clean photograph. And what that means is you are only showing the item that you are going to be selling in your photograph. You don't want to set up a pretty photograph with lots of accessories that are not included in your listing. You only want to include the item that you're selling. And that's when I say a clean photograph, that's what I'm referring to. Second tip, take your photos in square mode. You set up square mode on your phone or on your camera, and what square mode means is 1 by 1. That's the standard shape on the eBay platform, and that will help your photographs be as big and clear as possible once you upload them. The next tip, super easy, take two. And what I mean when I say that is when you are taking photographs, it takes almost no time at all to take a second photograph of the exact same shot. If you get a blurry one, you've got twice the odds of getting a nice clear photograph of it. So take two. One of the most important things when you're taking a photograph, eliminate the shadows. The best that you can do a lot of times with a small one is using something like we do with a little light box for small items. If you're going to take your items on a wall, you're better off to make sure that you've got light coming from multiple directions so that you don't get any shadows. The more that you can reduce shadows, the more people can focus on the item that you're selling and not your photograph. I want you to show the highlights and the lowlights. In other words, when you're taking your photographs, yes, if you were photographing a tie, you want to show the whole tie. You want to show the brand, but you also want to show any flaws. For example, if you're photographing a tie, like this Versace tie, it's the Medusa tie, which is a very cool logo. I want to show that. That's a highlight. But I also want to show any flaws. Like this tie has a little flaw in it, and I want to show that very clearly. Remember, the photographs are our best way of communicating with the buyer. So I want to show the lowlights as much as I do the highlights. Now that we've taken a quick look at the photographs, I want to give you some tips for our next section, and that is what business supplies do you really need to run an eBay store? Don't buy anything to make it feel like you have a business. The most important thing you can do when you're beginning a new business is to not create debt for that business. We want this business to run clean. So don't buy anything. You can reuse old boxes. Take the label off. Everything you can do to reduce your cost going in is going to come out on the backside as profit. On shipping supplies, there's a few things you got to have. You need some tape. You need some priority materials. You need a few boxes. I have never had anybody fuss about recycled supplies. If you have access to those, use them. Make sure that they still look professional, but absolutely use recycled materials if you have them. Again, you shouldn't be buying anything until you've got money coming in. Let's talk about printing your label. One of the supplies you're going to need is a way to print your label. And you've got three different choices that are very clear to me. A label printer, like my Rollo, that is the best choice. It's the easiest choice, and it's the fastest choice. Your second choice would be a regular printer. I've got a LaserJet that I use, but we've also used an inkjet for a long, long time. You print your label, cut it out, and tape it down. Your third choice requires no printer at all, and that is to send a QR code to your phone, and the post office can print your labels for you. And the last supplies, and the one that if you don't have, you need to buy. Like most things you don't need to buy. This you need to buy if you don't have a good one, and that's a scale. You can use a good kitchen scale. As long as it's accurate to at least a ½ ounce, you can use a kitchen scale. Scales are very, very inexpensive. Even a good one, we used an Accutech forever. I really like my Rollo because it's got the separate display so I can spread it out. So if you just need to invest some money, get you a scale. Because a scale you're going to need to weigh your packages. You know, I covered a few essential supplies and pretty much how you don't need most of them, but I'm going to take essential supplies and I'm going to talk about the most essential supply, completely different category, and that is your mental health. There are a few things that you can do that will help you protect your mental health when you're doing this job. And the first one is dealing with returns. Nobody hates a return more than I do. If I get a return and I respond in an angry manner, that isn't going to help my business do any better. And the people that return stuff who shouldn't have, I'm not going to convince them of anything by firing off at them. Justified or not, they're just a part of business. And to include in your business practices, just understand you're going to have some of that and move on with it, and don't let those people live rent-free in your head. One of the most important things you can do when you're doing this job is to talk to people and listen to people who do what you do. This job can be pretty isolating. You can get trapped taking pictures, doing listings, and you can literally work every day, all day, 7 days a week. Take some time and watch other people talking about what you're doing, because those people understand what you're going through. Their situation won't be exactly the same, but they could have a very clear understanding of what you're doing, might help you sort through some of the things that you need to sort through. One of the other things that you need to do, which we have tried the last year, Melody and I, to do a better job of, and that is schedule some time off. I mentioned earlier, this job can become all-consuming. And it's not just eBay. If you run a family business, it can take over your whole life. And some of that needs to happen or family businesses aren't successful. But you're not going to be less productive by taking a little bit of time off. The next one, I'm not coming to you as an expert doing it, but you need to move. And I'm really making an effort to do that. I have my watch, and one of the things that I've set my watch to do is to tell me, hey, you have been sitting at this computer too long, just get up and move. I hope it's not just an older thing. I hope that it resonates with someone, but don't forget to move when you're doing this job, because you can, and I do, and I'm still working on it. Another important aspect of this job is we've talked about learning from people inside what we do, but you also need to talk to people who aren't resellers, but are experts at what they do, because a lot of times you will run into people who know a lot about something that can really help you move your business forward. I've done this forever with my son. My son has a degree in computing. He's got a degree in computer maintenance technology, and he actually understands that stuff so much more than I ever will, because that's his love. And he does sell some things, but that's not his thing like it is mine and Melody's. But man, we can talk to him about technology. Not only can he tell us if something is popular right now, but generally he can tell us why. And those people help you keep your head straight so that you don't fall in love with just the numbers of reselling. It helps us appreciate the value behind the numbers that we're getting. One of the most important mental health aspects to this job that I could possibly come up with is the danger in comparison. I have done it. You've probably done it. How many of you have seen somebody post a picture of their 50 items they sold overnight? And you're standing there and you're holding one. And you're thinking, I'm failing. I'm looking at everything they're selling, and it can run you down. And the reality of it is, people post their wins on social media. I'm as guilty as anybody. I do try to share the losses too, but people post their wins. And you can't tell if those 50 items they sold made $500 each or 5 cents each. Don't fall victim to comparison any more than you absolutely have to. We all do it, but it's dangerous and it's not really very valuable, and it will mess with this up here big time. Now let's talk about sourcing strategies. Let's talk about some of the things that you can do, some tips that will make you more effective when you go out and source. One of the first things I think you need to do is to learn your area. When you're sourcing, when you go out and you look for things, there's going to be things in your area that might be more available to you than they are to other people. I've had this conversation with somebody recently that I live near Waco, Texas, which is where the Mars factory is, the candy company. So I see a ton of that stuff around here. Here's how you do it. You get onto the eBay platform, you do your search, then you're going to sort by nearest to you so that you can look, what are other people around me listing? And then you're going to look at sold. What are people around me selling? If you know what people in your area are finding and selling, that's a big benefit to you when you're out looking. Also, I tell everybody what I do. I have cards made that tell people, hey, I'm looking for these things, but I'm also willing to help. If you want to make sure you don't make a mistake before you sell something or donate a bunch of stuff, give me a call. I'll be happy to help you. If you're within driving range of me, I'm happy to come tell you. Most of my sourcing in the last 4 or 5 years has come from exactly that, private picks. I posted on Instagram that I picked up 6 FFA jackets from a garage sale that I went to a year ago, and I told them what I do. And they said, oh, if we ever have anything, we'll call you. And they did. They sent me a note and said, hey, are you interested in these before I throw them out? So tell people what you do. Really important tip for sourcing. When you buy, when you source, don't forget time investment. It isn't just the cost of the item that you need to factor into it. A good example of that is this hat that I bought. It's a State of Texas hat. It's super cool. I love it. I wanted to save it. Even when I did the video for that hat, I recognized the fact that this hat will not make money. Not because I won't make any dollars on it, but it's going to take me so much time to clean it up that there's not really a way to recover it with the end value of the item. So that was a labor of love, not of profit. But remember, when you're outsourcing, for the most part, it comes down to profit. This is a business, and you have to factor in how much time is this going to take. Does this need a lot of work before I can get this to market? And if it is, you need to factor that in. The next one is one of those do as I say and not as I do, because I overbuy. I buy it all, and I shouldn't. I have some footage of we call it the mill house. It's where my lumber mill used to sit. I have a building there, and I just want you to look at the amount of inventory I have in my mill house. And I just haven't found a person to get it to yet. But if you overbuy, you end up with so much stuff that you can't breathe, and you can't get stuff done nearly as quickly as you would. And like my vintage sweats are doing, they've been selling great, but I have thousands. They keep me from buying at other opportunities. So don't overbuy. Buy with what you can sell quickly so that you can keep your business moving forward. I also want to point out that there really are no bad buys. Your buys are either going to be learning opportunities or they're going to be profitable. And sometimes they're going to land in between. I bought a bunch of Swarovski crystal ornaments, and before I did my research, the 1991 one was broken. Like, it's broken bad, like not like a little chip, it's broken. And without doing a little bit of research, that could have gone in the trash. I learned a lot from buying a broken ornament. In part that if it wasn't broken, very, very valuable, meaning that even broken, it had value. So when you look at things, you're going to go out and you're going to buy things. And sometimes you're going to get home with something and it wasn't in the condition that you thought it was. Or it's slightly different than the one that's valuable. That's still not a bad buy. Not because all of them are going to sell broken, because those are genuine learning opportunities. They are going to make you better when you're outsourcing. And that's incredibly valuable. We touched on it in sourcing, but we're going to go from this section right into time management. And if there is anything that people in their own businesses struggle with, it is time management. So let's talk about a few tips that might make you a little bit more efficient. Build a schedule. If you have no schedule, you have this illusion of free time as a small business owner. You feel like because you can get up at any time you want, you can go to bed at any time you want. You have this illusion of free time. When the reality of it is if you look at the people that are successful doing what we do, they are busting their hump all the time. So make yourself a schedule of what you need to accomplish. I think that's really, really important, especially if you're just getting started, and especially if you're transitioning from a place where there was a set list of things that you had to do every day and somebody was checking on it. because nobody's going to be checking on you other than you. Another one I think is really important, and I think it goes into time management, and that is taxes. Let me tell you what I mean by that. You need to prepare for your taxes all year round. It isn't something that you do in April. And there's a few things that you can do to speed this process up. I'm not a tax guy, and I can't give you tax advice. What I would recommend is somebody I've talked to, is somebody that I respect. It's like not your dad's CPA. He's a CPA. He does some reselling. He's done some sourcing, and he's on YouTube. And he welcomes you joining his family and checking out the things that he's got to say, because he actually knows what he's talking about. But if you prepare all year round, you don't have to quit reselling in April to get your taxes done. I can't even think of the best words for it. It's a huge time saver over time. Another massive help and hindrance in time management is YouTube. You can go to YouTube and find people to show you how to do things efficiently. But you can also go to YouTube and find things that take up all day, every day. So use YouTube as a time management tool. If there are people that know how to do what you're wanting to do faster, if that's important to you to move faster, then watch those videos and then go to work. What you don't want to do is binge watch anybody all the time, because that's just going to take away from your productivity. It's a terrific and efficient place for you to find productivity information, but it can also kill your productivity. So keep that in mind when you turn to YouTube for help. And last, back to the schedule, prioritize. This is your business. This is your life. Prioritize those things that are important, because time management, when you work for yourself, it won't be just about doing the business stuff. I'm actually good at that. I work all the time. But sometimes I need to stop and go have lunch with Melody, because that's actually more important to me than whether I got 9 or 10 items listed or 20 or 21 items listed, is to make sure that I don't neglect somebody who actually loves me, and whereas eBay can be pretty fickle. So prioritize your life into those things. It's more than just a to-do list. You need to keep track on that to-do list, what's actually important and what's going to make you successful, not just on the job, but in life. I also want to talk about the eBay platform itself. I do lots of long tutorials where I talk about how to do something in great detail. But there are other things that I need to cover that don't require a whole video. So let's take a look at those. The first thing I want to show you is the Seller Hub. I do have a whole video for it, but very quickly, here's the site. You click on it and you opt in. You do have to have either listed or sold an item in order to be able to use it. The Seller Hub is a great place from where you can start your business from every single day. Top left-hand corner of mine is where I've got the tasks. It shows me if I need to list any, if I need to ship anything. So it's super, super handy. Let me quickly show you how to check comps. If you've heard that word and don't know what it means, checking comp means I want to know what this sells for, what other people are selling it for. And so I do the search for the item, and it's going to bring up the items that are listed like mine. And I want to go to the sold ones, and I want to see what they're selling for. So how much did those items bring when they sold? And that's all there is to checking comps. When you hear that, that's what that means. There are other places you can go. WorthPoint is one that Melody and I pay for, but you don't need to when you're getting started. You can also check Poshmark and see what they've sold for on there, but eBay is a terrific platform to check those things on. So I highly recommend that. While you're doing comps, I want you to check something I think might be more important than what they sell for, and that is how fast they sell. That is called the sell-through rate, and you'll hear people talk about it all the time. When you look on eBay, you're going to see how many of them are listed. And then you're going to see how many of them have sold. And so over that period of time that eBay is reporting those is the number we're looking at. But if there were 5 listed and 100 sold, as soon as you get that item listed, it's going to sell. If you're at a price point and the condition is correct, you're going to sell it almost immediately. Whereas if there were 100 listed and only 5 sold, you're going to sit on that item for a while. When you are just beginning your business, Sell-through rate is incredibly important. Pick items that are going to sell quickly. The next one I want to show you is how to send offers. When you've got several items listed, people are going to look at those things. Some people are going to watch those things, and you can send out offers. And under my tasks, you're going to see that I can click send offers. And I've got a couple of ways I can do that. I can just go item by item and put in the price I'm willing to sell it for. Or I could say, I'm just going to send them all out at 15% and see if I get any bites. Sending out offers is a great way to encourage some traction in your store. It's a great way to move some things, and it's not hard to do. Also, I want to show you, because this question comes up a lot, how do I know how much I made? I start at the Seller Hub, and I'm going to go to order so I can pick out one to show you. But if you click on this right here, then it's going to bring up the page. When you scroll down, it's going to show you how much money you made, not including what you paid for the item. So you'll hear a lot of people talk about eBay's taking all of my money, but typically it's 15% plus shipping. And here is where you can see that in detail. One of the most important skill sets that you can pick up on the eBay platform is learning how to look at the feedback that buyers leave other sellers. This gives you an insight into the buyer before you do business with them. So if I get an offer, I'm going to open that offer, and before I accept it or counter offer or decline it, I'm going to open that person's feedback, and then I'm going to go over to the feedback that they've left other people, and I'm going to put 200 of them, and I'm going to scroll through there and see what kind of feedback they leave. So before I make a decision on an offer, I want to see what kind of person I'm dealing with. Looking at the feedback they leave other sellers is a great way to do that. One of the common questions I get is, how can I change my name on eBay? Can I change my name on eBay? And the answer is yes, you can. Let me show you how. You're going to go to where it shows your account settings, and you're going to be able to see here where it says your personal information. We're going to open that. And right here where you see old school wear, you would click edit, and you can change that to whatever suits your store better. And you can do that every 30 days. One of the most important things that you can know how to do on eBay is to search your current active listings. One of the reasons for that might be that you want to sell similar. You want to copy a listing that you already have. So let me show you exactly how you can do that. From the Seller Hub, we're going to go down to where it says listings, and we're going to look at our active listings. And from here, I usually search by title, but you can also search by description, or there are a bunch of different choices there. But by title, I could enter 6-site and do a search for that, and it will bring up all of the items that I have that meet that criteria that are in my active listings. Very simple. That's all there is to checking your current listings. One of the things that makes the next one so hard is that it isn't always in the same place. So let me show you where it is on the PC, and that is the SKU. This is something that doesn't show up to the buyers. They can't see that information. It's a great place to put your inventory location. So let me show you where the SKU is in an active listing. The SKU on the computer is going to be right here where it says custom label. So here's the top of it. Scroll past the pictures, past the title, past the subtitle, and you should come up on your custom label. On your phone, it will be in the item specifics at the very, very bottom. All right, let's keep rolling. There are some legal considerations for you when it comes to having an eBay business. And I want to touch on just a few of them. And most of these are pretty simple, but they still bear being said. So let's jump into it. The first one I want to cover, copyright. And what I'm referring to here are stock photos. You see a lot of people use photos that the manufacturer took of the item. If those are in the eBay catalog, if eBay has permission for you to use those, you'll see that a lot with like nuts and bolts and things where there are stock photos you can use. But if you're selling a dress from a company, a mail order company or any other company, and they have a model in it, that's not your photo. And you can run into some copyright issues by using their photography. So the bottom line is, on our eBay, I take all my own photos. I know that there's somebody who's going to have a better photo, but that's not mine. I don't want to mess with it. So I don't. I just remove the headache by not using stock photos. Very similar to that is something called a Vero. This is another term you're going to hear all the time, and that is the verified rights owner. And people ask where that website is all the time. So I'm showing you here how to go to the Vero list, and you can scroll through it. One caveat to going through this list, it isn't comprehensive. Any company could go in and say they don't have this. I have very strong feelings about all of this. I think it steps all over what's called the first sale doctrine, but it doesn't matter, because if a company claims that what you have isn't realistic, you have to be able to show a chain of custody, basically, all the way from the manufacturer to you. Most of us can't do that if we're buying secondhand. So pay attention to the Vero list. There are certain brands that you need to avoid, but go through and read over these, and it'll give you a better understanding of what people are talking about when they talk about Veros. I'm going to touch on taxes one more time when it comes to the legal stuff. A good friend of mine, Rachel Strickland, says this all the time.
Treat your business like your business.
That covers a lot of ground. When you treat your business like your business, one of those things comes to paying taxes. I don't want you to pay any taxes that you don't owe, but there are some people that are of the belief that you can treat this like a business, but as long as you don't meet a certain threshold, which gets you what's called a 1099, that you don't have to pay taxes on it. But if your business sold stuff and made a profit, you're going to owe taxes on it whether you got a 1099 or not. That's why it's incredibly important. I'm going to kick you back to not your dad's CPA again. But what I'm saying is treat this like a business. There are some real tax benefits to having a business too. And that doesn't mean, it could mean an LLC. It could mean an S corporation. It could mean, like for us, a sole proprietorship. Talk to a tax person. But if you owe taxes, don't try to not pay taxes that you owe. You just don't want to pay taxes you don't owe. And that's where tax people come in really, really important. But treat your business like your business. Another legal consideration that I see get abused all the time are priority shipping supplies. And I have a ton of them. I use priority supplies all the time. You are not allowed to use those for anything other than shipping USPS priority mail. You can't take the bulk mailers, put your item in that, and then stick that in a different box. You can't use a priority box, cover it with a wrap so that they can't see it, and ship in that. That's not what they're for. You are breaking the law if you do so otherwise, and you risk the availability of those supplies for the people who are shipping like they're supposed to. So legal consideration, priority supplies are truly for shipping priority and nothing else. Let's talk about shipping. I've got a lot of shipping videos because I think it's the scariest thing on an eBay business is shipping. Everybody worries about it, especially if you haven't done much of it. But there's a few tips that might ease some of this for you, and let's talk about those. One of the things that I think has made shipping on eBay so much easier than it was before, Ground Advantage. You can use Ground Advantage for just about everything. When you create a listing, put Ground Advantage on it. If it ends up being cheaper down the road to ship it priority, you can always upgrade a buyer. Nobody wants to be downgraded. But you can put Ground Advantage on anything up to about 70 pounds. I love Ground Advantage. My next tip is to have your shipping supplies ready when you list something, because you're going to come across things that are hard to ship. And if you have everything ready for you to ship that, it's super easy. You just pack it up and you ship it on its way. But if you don't have the supplies, then you got to scramble, and it takes the joy out of selling something. So have those supplies ready when you ship. The next rule is one I follow all the time. Whenever I'm shipping, whether I'm talking about the weight on something or I'm talking about a dimension, I round up every time. The last thing I want to do is underestimate and have it come back on me or the buyer that I didn't pay what I needed to pay, or I didn't charge what I needed to charge. When you're doing international shipping or you're doing calculated shipping, if you enter the wrong amounts on calculated shipping, you're going to be the one eating that cost. So round up, make sure you're accurate, and round up if it's fractional amounts to make sure that you've covered any variances that could occur. huge tip, ship on time. That isn't the same thing as ship fast. I ship fast. More importantly than shipping fast, I ship on time every time. We typically have 1-day shipping on our items, and I ship every single day. If I were brand new, I'd put 2-day shipping on it because it's more important that you ship when you said you would than it is if you ship fast. Because if you put 1 day and something happens and you can't ship for 2, you're going to get dinged for that. So ship on time, big time important. All right, I want to talk to you about communication. I think every business that was ever successful was built on a foundation of good communication. And that's whether it's a very, very small business or a massive business. Be professional. When you are talking to somebody, remember, you're a business owner. I'm not Scott. I'm the person who sold this. I'm a business, and I talk to them like I'm a business. Always professional, and I keep it professional because those are the messages that eBay's going to read if there's ever an issue, and it keeps the person on the other end from feeling like there are personal attacks or anything, that I'm keeping this professional. Be prompt. This goes back to the last one when I talked about shipping when it was expected. When people send you a message, whether it's an offer or a message or a question, be prompt. If you wait several days to respond, the answer isn't going to be nearly as effective as if you delivered in a prompt manner. Be proactive. A lot of the communication can take place by removing questions before they have them, and even if the questions still come up, you can point back to where you said it. In every single auction that I do, which aren't many, but I do auction a few items off, I put in my listing, in the description, I don't end auctions early, and I do not have a buy it now for this product. The question still comes up, but I point him back to the listing. So be proactive and head off a lot of those questions with an accurate listing. Be polite. You know, being professional means that you keep everything kind of above a personal level, but being polite is the stuff that you heard from when you were a kid. Please and thank you go a long way to preventing problems and for stopping problems. So be polite. I'm overly polite when I'm talking to people, even sometimes when it hurts, but being polite solves a lot of problems. It solves a lot of problems before they ever become real problems. Sometimes knowing who to talk to is the most important thing in solving a problem. If you're running an eBay business, you're eventually going to have a problem that you need eBay's help with. 10 years ago, you would call and you would talk to somebody. Today, I think the new solution is better, and that is eBay for Business on Facebook. So let me show you how to find that. On Facebook, we're going to look up eBay for Business. And this group right here, when I go to their name and I go down to message, this is the best place to get help with your store, get help with your account. So I highly recommend eBay for Business. I've had tremendous support and tremendous luck by contacting them anytime I've had a problem. I have always found eBay for Business to be responsive. I have had tremendous luck with them supporting me as a seller on the platform. Every time I mention seller support from eBay on YouTube, somebody will comment that there is no support, and it simply isn't true. That isn't my experience. eBay for Business on Facebook has been tremendous. Be precise. When I make a listing, I want it to be accurate. Being precise in the communication, accurate pictures, accurate description. I'm pointing out every single flaw that I can find. That type of communication puts a buyer at ease. You might think that pointing out the flaws would scare off buyers. It actually does the opposite. A buyer who's looking at, say, a vintage item, they know that it isn't going to be a new item. But when you've pointed out the flaws, it builds a sense of trust. So that part of communication, being precise and accurate, huge important, and builds a lot of trust with your potential buyer. All right, and the last one I saved for last because it's not a comfortable topic, but we got to cover it, and that is security. This is a business. And your security on the platform is wildly important. So I've got a few tips for that. Number one, do not communicate with anybody off the platform. When you're new, especially, and occasionally even after you have experience, somebody's going to tell you that they need to talk to you on WhatsApp, I think is what they call it. Man, never. Don't communicate with anybody off the platform. That's never good. Two, you need to set up a secure password. And I'm going to show you a trick for that probably you've already seen, but just in case you haven't, here's an easy way for you to create a secure password that you can remember that nobody else can guess. In this example, Melody and I started eBay in 1999. I could take that sentence and just remember that sentence. For eBay, I'm talking about eBay. Melody and I started eBay in 1999. I can take the and I turned into, and I want you to see on the paperwork how that flows down and becomes a password for me with a few simple rules. Maybe you turn every E into a 3, or every 1 into an exclamation mark, or every 1 into an L, a lowercase l. There's ways for you to take a sentence, and if you have the same rules for whatever sentence you use, you end up with unique passwords that are incredibly hard to crack. So set up a password that you can remember following a phrase or a sentence rule like this, and it makes it pretty easy. You need a backup. We had one year where eBay lost 200 of my listings, lost their photographs. All of them. I had to recreate the photographs for 200 listings. So what we've learned since then, even if I wasn't cross-posting, I use List Perfectly as a place to store all of my listings. If something gets deleted or something gets lost, I can go back, pull my listing up, and whether you use something like List Perfectly or you create something on your own computer, which you could certainly do, back up your data somewhere so that you have access to it. Because remember, this is a business, and if everything exists only on the eBay platform, they're not perfect either. So it's really, really important for you to have a backup to that. 50 tips. I appreciate you watching. That's it for this one. I'm going to see you real soon on the next one. Bye.